Dog here with a new video. This time I've been using vampires to suck the life out of the Limit 1 festival. So in this festival, you're limited to only having one of any particular card. So I've used this as an opportunity to play a bunch of cards that I normally don't get to, namely vampire cards, combining with the Horus cards, with the Ghost Fusion cards. It's been a lot of fun. So let me show you some replays to show exactly what this deck is capable of. First up, we're going against a Mathmech player, everything limited to one. We'll see how this goes. Yeah, what I've really enjoyed about the Limit 1 Festival is it brings the ceiling down on a lot of different decks, which means that decks like vampires that normally you can't really play, they have too many like one card starters, but the starters don't get you into a ton. You need a lot of like things to feed back into each other. It doesn't matter because you're able to survive multiple turns usually, like um and people don't usually set up a bunch of omni negates. All right, they managed to get circular out. Luckily we had a Nibiru for them, otherwise things would have gotten out of hand pretty quickly. So because they used, so first we have Chicken Game, which does two things for us. First, we pay life points to draw a card. So drawing a card is great, more consistency. But secondly, Ghost Fusion requires us to have our life points less than our opponents if we want to banish a card from our deck. Ghost Fusion is one of our best starters, and I'll show you that combo at some point. However, they used Heat Soul to pay life points, so even though Chicken Game got our life points lower, it's not less than our opponents. So unfortunately, all we're able to do is put down a Called by the Grave and wait for a turn. But you'll see on the next turn, we're going to absolutely pop off, assuming they don't kill us. So we banish that, so they're not able to make their XYZ with two level 4s. Our Vampire Sorcerer gets an effect. Usually you just use its graveyard effect, but it's nice when they remove it to get a search off as well. All right. So the interesting thing about vampires is that it's super non-linear. Like there are just a bunch of different combos you can use. Here, Solitaire got us into Unizombie, which sent Doom King. So we're already in a good spot, right? When we have the zombie world up and we have the Doom King up, who just keeps coming back every turn, gets a banish, gets a negate. That's kind of one of our main engines to create negates, create bodies. The second one is now Ghost Fusion. They attacked us, our life points are now lower than theirs, so we can banish one monster that, we can send one monster on our field to the graveyard, and we can banish a card from our deck. And the primary one we want to banish from our deck is this level 6 monster. So she has to banish a zombie monster in order to get her effect off. He's just activating this to protect from destruction for no reason. But first, Shang-Chi is going to be able to mill any card we want, any zombie monster we want from our deck to the grave. So that's one search. So we get our vampire engine online, which is nice. And secondly, we can XYZ both Shang-Chi and the monster that we fusion summoned, which is always going to be Garura, in order to make Beatrice, who can send another card from our deck to the grave. And then on our opponent's turn, during their draw phase, we can send another card. So just from Ghost Fusion, you get 3 cards from your deck to the grave, and 2 of them can be any card you want, and the third is obviously going to be any zombie you want. So Ghost Fusion on its own immediately gets through your zombie world. However, in this case, we also get to get more things. So Glow Up Bloom, for example, special summons a zombie from our deck. When this guy gets to special summon a vampire, he gets to search this out. We make the Vampire Sucker. So a really nice combo here. The Vampire Sucker lets you tribute cards your opponent controls when you like normal summon them. So right now I have the ability, if I can get a second normal summon off, I can normal summon this vampire, tribute their monsters, steal 2 of their monsters, and then use those 2 stolen monsters to make either the vampire zombie or Dampier. All right, so we got a draw. Here though, instead of tributing their monsters, because I'm worried they might have like an imperm or something, I decide instead to use this card's graveyard effect so that I don't need to tribute with cost. Maybe that was unnecessary, but it is what it is. Steal both those monsters. We're probably gonna make the vampire zombie. Yeah. If you can make it using monsters that belong to your opponent. So we get a mill, and Gozuki gets to send another card. We get a search off, Allure of Darkness, why not? Vampire Fascinator, steal a card from their graveyard. Like, remember last turn? We had nothing. The only difference between this turn and last turn is that our life points are lower than our opponents, so we can activate Ghost Fusion. And we could have kept going. We could have done a whole lot more stuff, but we just chose not to. So that's the sort of thing that vampires are capable of. They usually need like a second turn to get like a second normal summon in or something, or maybe play through an Ash Blossom. But if you make it to turn like 3 or 4, you are gonna absolutely cook. Okay, so this one is against like a spellcaster deck. All right, here we go. Ghost Fusion. Upstart Goblin is also great. It's another consistency card that changes the our life points. There, that was kind of an awkward play. So this you can special summon it to your field. It costs life points, which is another way to get your Ghost Fusion online. However, I need to have a zombie monster in order to fusion summon Garura, and he's not a zombie monster, so I had to tribute summon to get the vampire Fräulein out in order to fusion summon Garura. So that was kind of awkward, but this is a good way to basically show if you have nothing but the Ghost Fusion, what can you get? So they negated one of our 3 mills, but now we have a second one. Zombie World, get a draw. Yep, and that's okay. For now, that's basically all we have, but we can send a Glow Up Bloom, for example, which special summons a zombie from our deck. We could have just sent Doom King directly, and then Doom King would have specialed, but this sort of plays around if they have a Called by the Grave or whatever. Okay, they're kind of doing stuff. They sent a... Ugh. Okay, so they didn't really have anything. That's another thing that's nice about this festival, though, is like because all these decks are kind of lower ceiling, people are testing out weird unoptimized builds. It's hard for people to do stuff, and I think the fact that we're making all their spellcasters into zombies might be affecting them as well. We can chain that and banish, so now their Grand Granule doesn't even get its graveyard effect. This guy, where'd he go? Gozuki has an effect where when he's sent to the grave, you can banish one of your cards to special summon another card, which is great if you have either Al Ghul or Chang'Xi in your grave or in your hand, because then they get special summoned back when they're banished. All right, we get another mill, so we get vampire cards online. We can synchro into a Baronne de Fleur using, the Unizombie. We can negate that effect, destroy that, destroy, die. I think I did the math wrong. I just barely didn't have enough life points, but we can still do more plays. Make the vampire, zombie vampire, make Zeus, vampire sucker gets a draw, special, grab the retainer. So the kind of vampire package, a big part of what it does is first it costs you life points, and secondly, vampire retainer can get you access to an omni negate. It's a very non-linear deck. Like there are a bunch of different pathways to get to different things. So there, all I needed was the Doom King. The Doom King on his own was enough to make it so they just suicided into me. Like this deck can get Doom King plus Zombie World out super consistently, and it can get a bunch of other plays as going as well. All right, this one ends in 1 turn, so my guess is I just like have a really good combo, and then they just quit. And I want to show you like the really good combo because I'm probably proud of it. Yeah, you can usually. It's definitely possible to end on Baronne de Fleur, the vampire counter trap Omni Negate, mill a bunch of resources for follow up for next turn, um, get Doom King plus Zombie World out for another negate and a banish, and it's even possible to get like an IP Masquerena to go into Little Knight. Let's see, what are we doing here? All right, Immortal Dragon, we can synchro summon him using like a level 4 and a level 2 usually. We use it to send her, so she actually allows us to search out the Ghost Fusion, which makes it a lot more consistent. We'll probably try to make the level 8 Zombie Vampire. I'm running card destruction, but there are some times where you just drop card destruction as like fuel for your King Sarcophagus. Zombie Vampire, get a mill, get a level 8, feeling great. There, it was basically just fuel for my Vampire Familiar. We can get the Vampire in the grave, and then this is kind of the Vampires combo. So basically, they always send a card from your hand or field to the grave to special summon themselves, but then they get banished when they leave the field. So now we've got the Omni Negate counter trap. Vampire Sucker is going to special summon something. And we did all of that before we even used Ghost Fusion. So now we're going to be able to get the Doom King package online and get a draw. Let's see, what are we milling first? First, Al Ghul. So if we manage to send Guzuki, we can special summon a level 8 out. Get a draw. Necroworld Banshee, okay. Yeah, do we have the Doom King yet? No, not yet. Get a draw. Okay, that's too bad that we hit Chicken Game. It's nice when you use it before you activate Zombie World, but when we only have the one Zombie World, then, you know. Ooh, that's rough. But we can still discard, so it's in the grave now. Synchro Summon a Barone. Yeah, so now we've got pretty solid setup. So Baronne de Fleur is an Omni Negate. The Counter Trap is an Omni Negate. We were gonna try to make maybe another XYZ monster. Yeah, they're out of there. That's like 3 to 5 interruptions. Pretty great. Unfortunately, when you pop off too much, your opponent just quits. Okay, like Naturia, Kashtira, Runick. Okay, all right. Let's see what you're cooking. Yeah, it'll. I'll go through the deck lists. I made a lot of like interesting choices all throughout. Some cards come in, some cards come out. I tried using the oh, what the heck are they called? The Punk engine. Like Punk is a very common engine to use with the zombie type deck. However, when all of the cards are limited to one, it really limits your plays. And when I was using the Punk engine, I found it was just not really helping. So here, Glow Up Bloom has an effect where when it's sent to grave, you can banish it, special summon a zombie from your deck, but then you can't summon zombies for the rest of your turn. So I didn't like that limitation, and I chose to not do anything about that. Negate her, so I can destroy their cards if I need to. All right, we've got Ghost Fusion online. Fantastic. Um, Unfortunately, Assault Synchron, if you summon it, you have to synchro summon. So if Unizombie wasn't a tuner, I would have been able to make the level 6 Immortal Dragon, which can send a card from our deck to the grave. But unfortunately, they're both tuners, so we can't synchro summon, and I'm locked into synchro summoning, so I'll have to wait till the next turn for me to get rid of stuff. We get to summon out the Doom King at least, so we could synchro Baronne de Fleur next turn, but they're going to banish the Doom King, unfortunately. So this was an interesting play. We activate Unizombie. We can target a face-up monster we control in the field. Um, send a zombie monster from our deck to the grave, and if we do, increase that target's level by 1. So I think the way this resolves, if Unizombie isn't on the field anymore, then and he targeted himself, then I don't think the effect works. But I target Assault Synchron, so I basically trick them into banishing Little Knight and Synchron. So that actually ends up meaning Unizombie's effect goes off, and I'm no longer locked into needing to make a Synchro monster. So we've got the Doom King Zombie World up, and this card that searched out our Ghost Fusion in the first place, Ghost Sleeper. She has an effect where the following turn you can banish her, discard a card, and grab back a banished card. So now that Doom King that we had before is back in our hand, we use Unizombie to discard it back to the grave, and now we get to go into our Ghost Fusion. We already had an Algul as well, which means we can special back a level 8. We can send a Mezuki, which is going to special summon a monster. Dampier gets to send a card from their field to the graveyard. Synchro summon into the Psychic End Punisher using a level 8 plus a level 3. Yeah, absolutely destroyed. This also makes us gain life points. Thank you very much. Your life points are very tasty. So, yeah, this deck has been we're just like crushing people with a super novel deck that not a lot of people have necessarily seen. Okay, another kind of spellbook. Is this like the loner? I don't know. Another kind of spellbooks spellcaster deck. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, there's so many crazy combos with this deck. I've kind of been a little skeptical of combo players sometimes because it seems like they just are constantly doing stuff while without actually doing anything. But with this version of the deck, like it requires a lot of like creative thinking because it's super non-linear. Like it's not just, oh yeah, grab Mathmech circular and then do this exact 20-step thing that's the same every time. Like with this deck, your combos are different pretty much every time. Uh, Here, for example, we end on kind of like the lowest tier of what we can get, which is just like an Omni Negate and a hand trap. But um, you're gonna see we like don't interrupt them at all, and it doesn't matter. We just are able to take them down. Return a set spell card to the hand. We don't bother negating that. Yeah, so that doesn't seem super exciting, but this turn is going to be much more exciting. So the King's Sarcophagus is going to completely solve everything. First, we send a couple of Horus cards to the grave. We don't send Glowbloom yet because we're not ready to be locked into summoning vampire monsters. Yeah, I'm not sure why they did that. It didn't even add an Alistair to hand. We steal their Fairy Tale Snow so they can't use it against us. Zombie World pops off. Yeah, absolutely toast. So it's a good example of why the Horus cards are really important to have in this deck. They can unbrick your hand, get everything in the grave, get everything rolling. Okay, this is a like a Despia fusion deck. Okay, this should be interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of people have been very creative with their Limit 1 Festival decks. Like, it's a cool restriction, but it allows you to still use a lot of cards. Here we've got Extra Foolish Burial, which is nice. You lose half your life points, which means that your Ghost Fusion is online, but you can also send a Kikalos, which gets a Mill 5, which is even better than the Zombie Vampire. What did we hit? We sent a Gozuki, which we can use to banish our Shang-Chi, which we milled, which special summons the Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi gets to send a card to our grave, and we get to send Ghost Sleeper, which means our Ghost Fusion is online. We can summon this out, sends this, and now he's a level 4, which means we can synchro summon into the Baron de Fleur. Alright, keep popping off, King. You do you. We destroy the Mizuki because it has a graveyard effect where we can special summon a zombie monster, so we just want it in the grave right now. Summon out a Unizombie just because we want to send a card from our hand to the grave, and we want to have a monster we can banish with Ghost Fusion. So now we've got Doom King. So now before we've even used Ghost Fusion, we've already gotten our Doom King in the grave, Zombie World on the field, Baronne de Fleur, and we don't even bother using Ghost Fusion because we can just save it for next turn, and we can do the whole Beatrice, Garura, mill 3 cards from our deck to the grave thing on our following turn. All right, we're going to eat that up with a Baronne negate. So basically, we have tons of follow-up next turn if they can't get through our 3 negations. All right, polymerization. So my guess is they're going to try to make Guardian Chimera here. Yep, they need a monster on the field. So unfortunately for them, the cards they sent to grave, I think they like already activated. Oh no, Edge of Chain adds Fright for Patchwork, but because this is the Limit 1 festival, there's only 1 in the whole deck, so they don't have any more to add. And Despia, it has an effect to special summon one of their Fusion or Despia monsters in the grave, or in the banished, in the grave, but they don't have any in the grave, which means they can't chain anything, which means that he just has 1 effect, which means that he can be negated. No. Don't. Special summon out Ecclesia. We're going to banish him. So they can actually still pop off there. They could, oh no, they didn't have any fusion monsters in the grave. Yeah, okay, so yeah, they were toast. And then on our next turn, we had just ridiculous amounts of follow-up. Last duel versus like a Fusion Alistair deck. I feel like this must be the loner deck, right? Because I've seen that version way too often to be a coincidence. Like, there's no way people are always choosing to run Alistair Spellbook decks. Another going second duel. Okay, this would be a good hand to have either a Horus card or just card destruction. Like, all these would be decent in the graveyard. This kind of reminds me of the Dogmatica video I made. Here, they probably should have summoned out. Obviously, they can't summon out Cartesia anymore. I think they should have summoned out Quem to send a Fallen of Albaz. It is what it is. Okay, so we have the field spell for our Horus cards, which makes them a little more consistent because everything's limited to 1, which means we can summon out Imseti. Imseti searches out King Sarcophagus. We get Ghost Fusion. Our life points are lower than our opponents because we have a vampire card. This gets consistency, gets our Unizombie. We get our vampire engine online, get a vampire monster. This is going to get an Omni Negate if we need it for follow-up. Make the vampire sucker, so when we special summon, we're going to be able to get extra effects. Also, the vampire sucker allowed me to tribute when I tribute summoned, so I actually tributed away this card so they don't get to get a draw 2. Their Grand Grignol, for some reason, even though I've used a monster to summon a monster, they haven't banished to special anything yet. I'm not sure why. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have targets either in their extra deck or in their regular deck. All right. Ghost Fusion combo. Here we go. Cheng-Shi, banish, get a send, Doom King online, Beatrice, get a draw, get a send. So we send a Mudora, which means we can actually shuffle any card we want in their grave back into the deck. It's a great interruption. I think there they must have been waiting on, like, maybe they had a Nibiru in hand and they were getting really greedy. But I just made Photon Lord to negate any Nibiru they might have. And after that, they immediately surrendered, so maybe I called it right. Absolutely annihilated. All right, let's quickly go over the deck list. So this is a much more complicated deck than some of my others have been. Let's go into it. So first we have the Vampire package. So we have Vampire Familiar, which when it's special summoned allows you to search out a vampire monster. Vampire Retainer allows you to search out a vampire spell or trap. And let's see. Vampire Ghost is sort of the normal summon that you use. You send a vampire monster from your hand to the grave, which means that it can start special summoning back to get its get searches off. You also get a search and you get a card sent to grave. So it's kind of a 3-in-1 starter, assuming you also have another vampire card in your hand. Other vampire cards, we have the Scarlet Scourge, which we use just to kind of extend plays, search out or summon back more vampires. And then we have the Vampire Void, which is kind of the boss monster. It has an effect where if you normal summon it, you can steal 2 monsters from your opponent's grave, which you can then use to either make the Vampire Sheridan, using their 2 stolen monsters regardless of level, which you can then use to send cards to the grave, or you can summon out the Zombie Vampire, which allows you to mill a bunch of cards. Both options are great. It's unfortunate that it's only when he's normal summoned and not when he's special summoned, but obviously he does have that good synergy with the Vampire Sucker, who allows you to tribute cards your opponent controls if those cards are vampires, which is where the vampire package comes really well with the Doom King Zombie World package. Other parts of the vampire package before we go too far. There's Vampire's Desire, which is either a vampire-specific Foolish, or you can, or a vampire-specific Monster Reborn. So it just enables a lot of your vampire plays. Vampire Domain, it gives you an extra vampire-related normal summon, and it also just costs you life points. And finally, obviously, a big part of the reason we even run the vampire package is it costs you life points, right? You want to have your life points lower than your opponent's so you can use Ghost Fusion, but also it enables you to get access to this counter trap. So going first, your vampire package allows you A, to get your Ghost Fusion online, and B, it gets you access to this Omni Negate. Also, it has a number of interruptions going second, where you can, use the Vampire Void to steal your opponent's monsters. It's just a bunch of extra free bodies. It's good synergy. I really like it. Last vampire card is Vampire Fascinator. It's a number of monsters. You steal a monster in your opponent's grave, then you contribute a vampire to steal your opponent's entire monster. There are a number of other vampire cards that you can use. I'm choosing not to use them because this format where everything's limited to 1 means you're a lot less consistent. So I'm just kind of using the best possible cards that are good on their own, and then putting a number of packages together. The next package is the Ghost Fusion package. So we have obviously Ghost Sleeper, which is great. We have tons of ways to send a card from our deck to the grave, which means that we have a really easy way to search out Ghost Fusion. Like, it's super consistent to get our best 1-card starter online. There's another zombie card where if you normal summon it, you can grab a Ghost Fusion, but like, we already have other more important cards to normal summon. It's a lot easier just to send a card from our deck to the grave, as strange as that may sound. Let's see, other cards related to Ghost Fusion. That's kind of the main one. Obviously, there's Ghost Fusion itself. You have to banish 1 card from your deck or your hand or graveyard, and then you can send 1 monster that you control from your field to the graveyard. The reason that's important is because there are 2 monsters we're running that we can banish that will special summon back if they're banished. The first is Al Ghul Mazura, which also has an effect where if one of your cards would be destroyed, you can banish it instead, which means it like summons back and it protected your cards from being destroyed. Really nice, makes it easy to summon even from your hand. Shang-Chi is a lot more important though. When it's banished, you can special summon it, and then you send a card from your deck to the graveyard. Then after that, you've just used Ghost Fusion to fusion summon Garura. Then, because you have the level 6 and a level 6, you can XYZ summon Beatrice, who can discard a Garura to get a draw 1 and send any card from your deck to the grave. For example, you can send a Mudora, which is really nice. There are a lot of important cards in your opponent's graveyard you might want to shuffle back. You also might accidentally mill your only zombie world from your deck to the graveyard. And we have like a surplus of ways to get cards from our deck into the graveyard if we want to. So being able to send a Mudora to get a Zombie World Online, and then separately being able to send Necroworld Banshee, which will activate Zombie World from our deck, is just fantastic. So Ghost Fusion, fantastic. We need a bunch of ways to lose life points in order to get it online, but if you can do that, then you're going to pop off. Other cards that cause us to lose life points. Let's see, we've got Assault Synchron. It costs you 700 life points. You special summon it. If you also normal summoned like a Mezuki or a Gozuki or something, then you can synchro summon out your Immortal Dragon, which is another level 6 monster that allows you to send a card from your deck to the graveyard. It has just great synergy. It's relatively easy to summon out. We're running the Plague Spreader. It's just another tuner similar to the Assault Synchron. Makes it easier for you to make your Baronne de Fleur or your Immortal Dragon or even your Psychic End Punisher, for example. Let's see. We've talked about that. Mezuki is great. You can send it to your graveyard and then it banishes itself to summon one of your cards in your grave to the field. Oh, I forgot about the Vampire Sorcerer. This has an effect. If it gets destroyed, obviously you can search a card out. But more importantly, if it's in your grave, you can banish it. And then the next time you would normal summon a vampire, you can do it without tributing. So you can normal summon out this guy, for example, without losing any monsters on your side of the field, if that's kind of the situation you're in. Unizombie is kind of like the gold standard of vampire normal summons. You normal summon him and you can both get a card from your hand into the grave, and you can get a zombie monster from your deck to the grave. The second part is more important. You also have a ton of flexibility with how many levels you want him to have, so you can go for any of these synchro monsters that you might try to go into. The other gold standard of normal summons for zombie cards is Gozuki. Obviously, you just summon it, and like Unizombie, you can send any card from your deck to the grave. If you want to send a Plague Spreader, for example, then you can really easily summon that out, and then you have a level 4 and the level 2 tuner to really easily make Immortal Dragon. So then you've got Immortal Dragon and you're still, popping off, still sending cards from your deck to the graveyard. Let's see. Yep, so we talked about the Doom King package, the Vampire package. These are kind of part of the Ghost Fusion package. Horus. Okay, so we're running triple Horus because everything's limited to one. We just want to be able to take advantage of Horus as much as we can. Obviously, Imseti can grab out your Gold Sark. Your Gold Sark can do stuff on its own. And we also have Walls of the Imperial Tomb, which is mainly a way to search out Imseti if you don't already have access to King's Sarcophagus. If you have King's Sarcophagus and Walls of the Imperial Tomb, you're probably just going to discard Walls of the Imperial Tomb to send another card from your deck to the graveyard, though. We have a number of hand traps and interruptions. Obviously, we have Ash Blossom. You saw me normal summon it with a level 8 in order to make Psychic End Punisher, but you can also just use it to negate one of your opponent's cards. We have Nibiru, which is like a fantastic board wipe. It's as good as like a Torrential Tribute from the hand. I really like it. We also run Crossout Designator to negate their Nibiru or their Ash Blossom if they try to use it against us, as well as an Impermanent Called by the Grave. Just like good generic interruptions that help you out. We also have some consistency cards. Chicken Game, obviously, you pay life points to draw cards, so it gets your Ghost Fusion online and it keeps you consistent. Upstart Goblin, you give your opponent life points to draw a card. Again, a way to get Ghost Fusion online. We obviously are going to run Foolish Burial. Like almost all of our monsters that we care about, Gozuki, Unizombie, Shang-Chi, Beatrice, like the whole point is to Foolish Burial cards from our deck to the grave, so why not actually run Foolish Burial, right? Let's see, card destruction. Yeah, there are some times when we have like 3 or 4 cards in our hand that we just want to find ways to get in the grave. This way we can actually plus even more off of that, so we can turn 5 cards in our hand into 5 cards in our grave plus 5 cards in our hand, which is huge for us. Extra Foolish Burial, we've talked about this. It is basically a way to send Tyrell and Kikalos. You pay life points to get a mill 5. It just does everything you need. You're not allowed to set cards the turn you activate this, which makes it kind of in conflict with vampire domination, but you just have to make that choice depending on what cards you have. We finally have Triple Tactics Thrust, which if your opponent activates a card, then it's just another way to search out probably Ghost Fusion, but you could also search out like a card destruction or maybe an extra foolish burial. Mostly Ghost Fusion though. All right. That's the main deck. Let's talk about the extra deck. So we have Kit Kalos, the Mill 5, the Garura, really important for your Ghost Fusion. Immortal Dragon, we've already talked about. Baronne de Fleur, it's fantastic. You make it really frequently. You can make Psychic End Punisher pretty frequently as well between Unizombie and a number of other cards we have access to. It's not that hard to be able to make a level 11 Synchro. Beatrice, arguably the most important card in the build. It gives you a ton of consistency. You can get out your zombie world pretty much all the time. The Sheridan and the Zombie Vampire, we talked about how you can make those from stolen monsters, but we also are able to get multiple level 8s and multiple level 6s on the field pretty frequently as well. Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, you already know him. He negates a monster effect. The Divine Arsenal Zeus, you can make them after you've battled with your XYZ monsters. Relinquished Anima, it's mostly in cases where you might have Vampire Familiar or Glow Up Bloom on the field, and you have to normal summon them, and then you have to get them in the grave somehow. And I use this over Anima because we don't have nearly enough level 1 monsters to like justify it, and this way it's maybe like an interruption. Literally never came up, but whatever. Vampire Sucker, obviously this is a great way to get a couple of your monsters on the field in the graveyard, and it allows you to tribute your opponent's monsters, and it allows you to draw additional cards. A cool interaction I forgot to mention, if you have, this would require a lot of setup, but if you have Zombie World on the field, Vampire Sucker on the field, so all their monsters become zombies, you have Vampire Void in your hand, and you have Vampire Ghost in your graveyard, you can banish the Vampire Ghost quick effect during your opponent's turn, and that will cause you to normal summon this guy, tributing 2 of your opponent's monsters, and then he steals 2 monsters from your graveyard. It's not that easy to get that combination of cards set up on purpose, but when you do, it's just awesome. Like tribute 2 monsters is amazing interruption. Let's see. We have IP Masquerena, which we can set up in order to make SP Little Knight. Maybe there's some cases where I chose to make Vampire Sucker, but I probably should have made IP Masquerena instead, but it is what it is. Finally, the Vampire Fascinator. I hope that you've enjoyed this Limit 1 festival. Really quickly, I'm going to go over a couple of versions that you might try to use vampires in for like a normal 40 card deck. These are kind of based off of decks that I've seen online. I'm still trying to get the handle of them. Basically, we have like more of our consistency cards. Max C is allowed. We have this other synchro monster, which we can make a little bit more synchro plays with. The Horus engine is obviously going to be a lot more consistent in something like this. Jacobolin is an interesting card that I've seen some people really like to use. It allows you to special summon cards from your deck a lot more easily. I'm not running in my other deck. I just think we need more of those other cards to keep things consistent. This is one where you just can normal summon your Ghost Wyvern in order to get your Ghost Fusion more consistently. And then we have a couple of like these Synchro 8, Synchro 10 monsters that people really like, or a Vendread Slayer can send a zombie monster from your deck to the grave. I'm not sure how good this is. It still requires testing, but I just feel like showing this stuff off while I can. And then for a 60 card version, I threw in kind of the punks, and you can also throw in these psychic tracker cards as like really easy to summon level 3 monsters. Basically, you want to have the Foxy tune so that you can get access to Xiamen. Ideally, you want to have some way to get multiple level 3 monsters on the field. Maybe you can synchro summon the Immortal Dragon. Uh, Otherwise, it's mostly just a way to pay life points to get things like Ghost Fusion online while also getting level 8 bodies out. I'm running a bunch of upstart goblins, a grass, obviously. Cosmic Cyclone is a way to pay life points while still having an interruption, maybe going second. Uh, yeah, that's kind of just like the general thoughts on vampire related decks. You can expect to see the Master 1 Eldlich Horus deck tomorrow. See you in the next one. Peace.